A sense of Britishness, what I used to think it was a sense of inclusion and a sense of cohesion, and I don't know if I know what a sense of Britishness is anymore.
We, living in the northeast, didn't want to lose Scotland because the northeast didn't really feel like they had an effective voice, and it would have been a great loss for the northeast if we'd lost Scotland at that point.
Scotland votes to stay in the United Kingdom. We keep membership of the European Union. We also keep shipbuilding on the River Clyde.
Firstly, it sounds like a lot of what was promised during the campaign hasn't actually been delivered for Scotland. I suppose the most important thing was Brexit. It felt like I didn't know the country that I loved anymore. And no wonder people are angry and feel disenfranchised. It's totally understandable, but it just seems to have been channeled towards the EU and immigrants.
There's utter alienation with Westminster and with Brussels, and that lies behind this large Brexit vote.
You know, to not feel safe in your home, and that psychological safety is just so important. And after 18 years where I'd worked with some of the most difficult people in this country, that wasn't good enough just because of where I was born. We saw a very, very different direction, sound leadership from the Scottish Government.
And we voted to renew our reputation as an outward-looking, open and inclusive country.
That EU citizens such as myself made a valuable contribution. At that point, that was when we decided that we were absolutely for Scottish independence. I'd always wanted to live in Scotland. It feels like home. It feels very, very, very Scandinavian. It's beautiful.
The way I see it at present, Scotland has a very bright future, and it's an inclusive future that makes you feel want to be part of it and go forward with Scotland. I'd like to imagine that an independent Scotland is the beacon that allows the North East to step out the shadow of London.
And if we vote Leave on June the 23rd, we can take back control of £350 million a week and spend on our priorities here in this country, including on the National Health Service. We can take back control.
Britain's departure from the European Union is projected to deliver a severe blow to the country's healthcare system. The National Health Service, the NHS, already suffers from serious staff shortage, and Brexit is expected to make it even worse. That is because the withdrawal from the EU will force overseas medics to either stay away or leave the country.
There's something like 85,000 vacancies, a lot of them for skilled workers, and even though we've got some sort of vague, I suppose, reassurances that we will be able to stay. It's quite a low bar. Being able to stay in a country, it's about attracting the right people. We have been referred to as wholesale imported people. We have been referred to, you know, in terms of swarms of people coming into this country, and it's very dehumanising language. And Scotland is really dependent on skilled and, I suppose, unskilled labour from abroad. We are seeing a lot of people leaving, and that could be catastrophic.
There was a conservative estimate of something like 500 million in terms of healthcare that it would cost for the expats to come back to this country that are picked up by the countries that they're living in. So it's inconceivable, this, let's control our borders, we'll get rid of all the EU nationals and all the expats can come back. But then if you look at the age range of expats, they're all over 65. They all have significant health problems, coexisting morbidities that end up having a huge impact. It needs social services, it needs council help, that are all going to be arriving back in the country in one big lump. Whilst all the trained people the educated people who are bringing in tax revenue, who are doing jobs, are all going to leave the country.
Every Medicare Complete member has a story. This is Charlie's.
When I first looked at this plan, it just looked too good to be true.
I don't know if I know what a sense of Britishness is anymore. Because it's a good country, because it's great that people want to live here, and now it just seems to be an awful cacophony of small-minded people complaining about stuff that they have no understanding of. So I'm not sure Britishness, I don't think it exists anymore.
2017 has been a year of progress for the United Kingdom. In January, I set out our objectives for the Brexit negotiations. And in the months since, we have pursued them with steady purpose.
We used to, as Danes, have this. We really looked up to this country.
That the iconic #Blue Passport will return after we leave the European Union in 2019.
Modern Britain, in all its diversity, compassion and strength, that was shared around the globe.
But that's changed dramatically over the last year, and I suppose initially people were kind of waiting to see what great trick the UK had up its sleeve, because surely they couldn't do something like that, you know, something as reckless with no plan. There must have been something there, but now that it turns out that actually there isn't a plan, people are really losing faith in the UK as a brand. It's being seen as really quite unreliable.
And I acknowledge that the words I used were open to being misinterpreted, and I apologise. I apologise to Mrs. Zaghari Ratcliffe and her family.
So the government hasn't undertaken any impact assessments on the implications for leaving the EU for different sectors of the British economy. So there isn't one, for example, on the automotive sector.
On the
automotive sector?
No, not I'm aware of, no.
Is there one on aerospace?
Not I'm aware of,
no.
It's being seen as not a safe place for people to live and work. The impact of that can't be underestimated, and that's another reason why I really very strongly feel that Scotland needs to separate itself from that. The Scottish brand is really quite highly regarded in Scandinavia and in the rest of Europe. And I think it would be a real shame for Scotland to miss out on that. But I think there's probably quite a small window of opportunity for that to happen, and Scotland shouldn't allow itself to be dragged down.
The analysis that we published today is more detailed and extensive than anything so far provided by the UK government, and that in itself speaks volumes about their reckless and irresponsible approach.
Scottish people have the right to be asked which do you prefer, being in the EU with prosperity or going down the drain with the UK?
Absolutely no doubt that they could be successful. If you look at the model of small countries around Europe, Scotland fits perfectly into that sort of scheme. The likes of Denmark, Sweden, Norway. I think the opportunity, resources and planning that are available to Scotland. Scotland hasn't franchised its education. Scotland delivers an education for the people that live there to allow them to contribute and develop the country. If you look to England, most people can't afford to go to university now. If they do, they're in debt for years. The funding that provides people while they're on the courses has been franchised out. Everything has been sold, and Scotland has the opportunity as a small country and a well-planned future to make the best of what's available to it.
You're still saying they. You need to say we.
Wait. We're seeing that independence is the way forward, and we've only been here a short while.
Earlier, I keep hoping to have the Dallas ending, where Bobby isn't actually dead. He's just in the shower. Like, tomorrow I'm going to wake up and Bobby will be in the shower and everything will be fine.
But it is fine. We're in Scotland. We'd heard a lot about how English people were treated in Scotland, so we were well prepared. We had I suppose a repertoire of assertive and snappy and funny comebacks for when people inevitably would be angry at us for being English, but we've still got them. It hasn't happened yet.
They're still in the wrapper.
I know. We were so well prepared as well. No, people have been absolutely amazingly welcoming. I can't say that enough. We live in Dundee now, and the people are just absolutely lovely, really interested in where we're from. We've been engaged in a lot of really interesting discussions and debates, but no, we've never experienced anything like that, and I certainly haven't had any kind of problems being an EU national either. So yeah, that's really positive. So I'll be voting yes because I believe in Scotland.
I'll be voting yes because I believe it's the only way for Scotland to have some sort of success and be the country it deserves to be.